In the annals of history, the rise and fall of dictators and terrorists have left an indelible mark on the world stage. Today, we delve into the stories of three such figures. First, we have Saddam Hussein, the iron-fisted ruler of Iraq, whose reign was marked by war and terror. Then we journey to the streets of Mumbai, where Dawood Ibrahim, a notorious underworld figure, rose to power and became one of the world's most wanted men. Lastly, we visit the hideouts of Osama bin Laden, the mastermind behind one of the deadliest attacks in history, who eluded capture for years. These men, hailing from different parts of the world with varying backgrounds and motives, played pivotal roles in shaping the course of history. Despite their differing paths, they shared a common fate. The consequences of their actions caught up with them. Their stories serve as a stark reminder of the price of power and the inevitability of justice. Each of these figures had a unique rise to power, fueled by ambition, ideology, and a disregard for human life. Let's begin with Saddam Hussein, a man who in 1979 seized control of Iraq in a bloodless coup. A master of political survival, Saddam ruled with an iron fist, using fear and brutality to maintain his grip on power. His reign was marked by wars, human rights abuses, and a complete disregard for international law. Next, we have Dawood Ibrahim, a son of a Mumbai police constable, who rose through the ranks of the city's underworld to become its undisputed kingpin. His empire spanned continents, dealing in everything from drugs to arms smuggling. But it was his alleged involvement in the 1993 Mumbai bombings that catapulted him into the global spotlight, making him one of the world's most wanted criminals. Then there's Osama bin Laden, the scion of a wealthy Saudi Arabian family who turned his back on a life of privilege to wage a holy war against the West. As the founder of Al-Qaeda, bin Laden orchestrated a series of deadly attacks, culminating in the September 11th attacks on the United States in 2001. His extremist ideology and ruthless tactics earned him the top spot on the FBI's most wanted list. Each of these men manipulated the levers of power to serve their own ends, disregarding the cost to human life. They exploited the fears and grievances of their followers, sowing seeds of division and hatred. Their rise to power was marked by violence and terror, leaving a trail of destruction and suffering in their wake. But as we'll see in the next part of our story, their reigns did not go unchallenged, and justice, though sometimes slow, was ultimately served. Yes, but as history has shown us, power obtained through violence and terror is seldom sustainable. Each of these men, Saddam Hussein, Dawood Ibrahim, and Osama bin Laden, experienced this in their own way. Saddam Hussein, once the mighty ruler of Iraq, was ultimately toppled by the very power he had once wielded. His reign, marked by brutal suppression and war, ended in 2003 with a foreign invasion. He was captured, tried for crimes against humanity, and executed in 2006. Dawood Ibrahim, on the other hand, continues to elude capture, but his once powerful criminal empire has significantly dwindled. International pressure and law enforcement efforts have pushed him into hiding, and many of his key associates have been arrested or killed. His influence, although still present, is a shadow of what it once was. Osama bin Laden, the feared terrorist leader, was the world's most wanted man for over a decade. His audacious attacks brought him infamy, but also the relentless pursuit of international forces. In 2011, he was located and killed in a covert operation, ending his reign of terror. The fall of each of these figures was marked by a distinct set of events, but the underlying pattern remains the same. Our power built on violence and terror ultimately leads to downfall. The aftermath of their reigns left a trail of destruction and pain, but it also paved the way for justice and recovery. In the end, they faced the consequences of their actions, serving as a reminder of the price of unchecked power and violence. Their stories, etched in the annals of history, continue to echo this lesson to the world. Unchecked power, violence, and terror may rise, but justice in its own time prevails. Despite the distinct path Saddam Hussein, Dawood Ibrahim, and Osama bin Laden shared striking similarities in their rise and fall. Each of these men started from relatively humble beginnings. Saddam, born into a poor farming family, clawed his way to power through the ranks of Iraq's Ba'ath Party. Dawood, a son of a Mumbai police constable, climbed the ladder of the underworld with his cunning and ruthless ambition. Osama, though born into Saudi Arabia's wealthy bin Laden family, chose a path of extremism and ascended as the leader of Al-Qaeda. Their rise to power was marked by a shared characteristic, an insatiable thirst for control. Saddam ruled Iraq with an iron fist, imposing his will on the nation with little regard for the rights of his people. Dawood asserted his dominance in the underworld through violence and intimidation, controlling vast criminal networks spanning continents. Osama, driven by a twisted interpretation of religion, sought to impose his radical ideology on a global scale. However, their paths diverged significantly in terms of their public personas. Saddam was a public figure, a head of state who, despite his tyrannical rule, sought to portray himself as a champion of Arab nationalism. Dawood, on the other hand, operated from the shadows, avoiding the public eye while his criminal empire expanded under the radar. Osama was a figure of mystery, a phantom who communicated through videotape messages, his exact whereabouts remaining a mystery for years. Their falls were as dramatic as their rise. Saddam's reign ended with a military invasion, his capture symbolizing the end of his brutal regime. Dawood, still at large, is a fugitive from justice, his empire under constant threat from law enforcement agencies worldwide. Osama met his end in a covert operation, his death marking a significant victory in the war against terrorism. Yet, despite their differences, the stories of Saddam, Dawood, and Osama converge in one crucial aspect: the immense human suffering they caused. Their pursuit of power, influence, and control resulted in countless innocent lives lost and societies destabilized. Their legacies, far from being celebrated, are a stark reminder of the destructive power of unchecked ambition and a disregard for human rights. In the end, the rise and fall of Saddam, Dawood, and Osama teach us the same lesson. Power, when wielded without responsibility and respect for human life, inevitably leads to destruction. Their stories serve as a stark reminder of the destructive power of unchecked ambition and a disregard for human rights. History is not just a record of the past, but a lesson for the future. This statement rings especially true when we reflect on the lives of Saddam Hussein, Dawood Ibrahim, and Osama bin Laden. Throughout this exploration, we've seen how these three figures rose to power and influence through different paths. Saddam, through his iron grip over Iraq. Dawood, from the crime-ridden streets of Mumbai to becoming a dreaded underworld don. Osama, from a wealthy family to the mastermind of one of the most devastating terrorist attacks in history. Their stories are not just tales of power and influence, but also of the severe repercussions of their actions. They left behind a trail of chaos, destruction, and suffering, yet justice, though sometimes delayed, was not denied. Saddam was captured and executed. Dawood is a most wanted criminal, and Osama met his end at the hands of the very nation he sought to terrorize. Their narratives serve as stark reminders of the consequences of wielding power without responsibility, of choosing violence over peace, and of the disregard for human life. They showcase the inevitable downfall that comes with such choices. Despite their differing backgrounds and motivations, they share a common thread: the misuse of power and the infliction of harm on countless innocents. This, in turn, led to their ultimate fall. But perhaps the most important lesson we can glean from their stories is the resilience of humanity. Despite the terror and tyranny they unleashed, people have survived, rebuilt, and moved forward. This resilience is a testament to the indomitable spirit of mankind. As we reflect on their rise and fall, let us remember the resilience of humanity in the face of tyranny and terror. History's lessons live on. Remember, history is not just the past, it is a guide for the future, a reminder of where we've been and a warning of where we should never return. So, as we delve into the annals of history, let us not just remember the events, but learn from them. Let us strive to create a world where power is used responsibly, where peace triumphs over violence, and where every life is valued. Let the lessons of history guide us towards a better future. As we reflect on their rise and fall, let us remember the resilience of humanity in the face of tyranny and terror. History's lessons live on.